Okay, I have a confession.
They're all gonna want to take showers afterwards.
Oh my God, what's gonna happen?
This is so sexy.
Oh my goodness. I had a huge daddy fetish.
Bound to go wow wow.
Hello, Cybersphere. It's your cyber girly, Vanniall, and we're back with yet another Sex Tales episode. And I'm here with my girl, Melissa.
Hey guys, it's Melissa Stratton. You know me as a content creator and mattress actress. And we have an incredible guest today. Let's welcome Nicole Aniston.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No,
It's been a tech journey to get to this point, so I'm really glad we toughed it
always
out.
is.
Yeah, fighting
It
the tech
always
gods
is.
is not an easy battle.
No, so we're super excited to have you because we want to start at the very beginning of your career. I believe you started in 2009 with Sticky Video. Do you remember this?
Yes. Oh my goodness. And honestly, there was even like a mystery video that was even a little bit earlier than that, but I don't remember.
Ooh.
It was like this is how I met the Sticky Video guy. I have not seen the footage. I got my cash and got out of there because this guy was super shady, but somewhere in the ether is a mystery video if I went on, like, even a few years before that. So,
All
but
right,
yeah, Sticky Video, I guess.
Come on,
officially.
internet. We got to find that one. Yeah.
It's floating out there.
I love it.
No, it's the internet. It's up there forever. So somewhere existing, probably under like a
Right.
mystery pseudonym. But yeah, Sticky Video, I guess, is my
Yeah.
official kind of introduction to normal content production. And then shortly after, my mainstream, I guess, debut was for Reality Kings.
Yeah, speaking of Reality Kings, you worked with Bang Bros, Reality Kings, and Brazzers. Do you have any moment where you felt like this is going to be, your scene? Like, this is going to be the one people remember you for?
No, there was absolutely no thoughts of I'm going to be remembered for this. I'm going to create a brand. I'm going to
Be a
build a
legend.
business. I'm going to, no thoughts at all. It was simply survival tactics. Like, I'm broke. All I've ever known is being broke. And I have only known scarcity mindset. And I have absolutely no formal education or skills or people skills. But coming from sales and HR background, I was like, well, I don't have a lot of sexual experience, but let me see how can I muscle through this and just make this like an okay thing for me? Because for some reason I feel called to this work simply because of the ease.
So what was it like getting that first paycheck?
Honestly, it was an incredible relief. I kind of tell this story, and I'm sure many listening have heard it, but I drove up to LA with $12 in my bank account, like gonna lose my ass type of thing. And I didn't know what else I was gonna do. And honestly, leaving that set with that check after that first boy-girl scene, and also accompanying the check with a very easy feeling day. Like, I can do this. I was not violated. I felt very confident in the director, the male talent. Everything felt very easy. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember getting to the bank 40 minutes before they closed, not knowing how I was even going to get home because I had half a tank of gas. I was like, wow, I know what it's like to feel finally safe for the first time in my entire life. So it was a shocking revelation to my entire nervous system, feeling like I don't know what's going to come next, but I know that if I can keep this up, I can keep my shit together. And so that was the only thing that I knew getting in was I don't have any skills, but these people are easy to work for. So see what happens next.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was totally unexpected for you. Or did you have expectations when you did that first scene?
I had zero
Do you want to get out of
expectations.
here?
I felt like I would do a couple, and then I would probably bail. And it pretty quickly, snowballed, like anybody else will usually attest. It snowballs very quickly, and you have to make hard choices. You have to tell those who you know in your personal life what you're now doing, because when you leave your job at the bank, and because they cut your hours and all these things happen, and people are wondering how you're paying your bills. Eventually, you have to be forthcoming with those who love you, and it's a really nice kind of get off the pot moment for your self-awareness, for your like, I'm going to establish this is who I am now at this point in my life. I don't care if people consider me one way or another. This is what I'm going to choose for my safety. And it always felt safe. So I kept it up.
Wow.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you had that experience. I think a lot of us do, and it's unexpected. I also think that it takes a certain personality traits to be successful in this industry. What traits do you think you have that kind of contributed to you staying in the beginning?
In the beginning, I got in very callous and very dry. I still have like this very sense of dry sarcasm. I'm not a very sensual person. I'm very Virgo, very overly analytical, very how can I?
We love a Virgo here.
We're an interesting bunch where you either hate us or you love us. But I know myself, and I knew myself well enough to where I knew that I could make this work. And I just thought, this is going to be a character building experience. I'm going to be able to learn people because I love people and I love like studying consciousness and awareness and how people interact with each other. So it was kind of like a social experiment for me a little bit once I started to get financially secure. For me, just the analytical mindset, the straightforwardness, the promptness, showing up on time, being as responsible as I could be. As I learned responsibility through this job, it actually taught me a lot of basic life skills that the household that I grew up in would never have been able to show me. So, kind of growing up through having to be held accountable, not having that responsible of an agent was actually really helpful as well, because I had to double check and triple check details, and, I had to stay on top of my tests and get wardrobe and drive myself to LA when I had, have had past car accidents and trauma on the road. So there was a lot of things to grow through, and I just accepted that that was going to come through this job. And I just thought, as long as I just keep my shit straight, be a person of my word, cancel if I need to, and just do the human basics, I'm going to be successful at this. And it was very much, that easy. So I didn't put a whole lot of thought of like,
damn, I'm in. There's something
So
about
easy.
you. Yeah, there's something about you that I wish you were a director. The way that you're speaking about like the organization of
Have
everything,
you ever
I'm like,
directed? No.
I haven't. No, I'm very non-competitive, and I'm just now coming into like being in my late 30s now, coming into like this kind of self-confidence where I'm ready to guide and lead others.
100%.
And it's gone in a completely spiritual and consciousness-based direction where I know that I wouldn't want to be on set. I would want to be on set in some kind of an organizational detail, maybe not directing, but some kind of an assistive, like wellness-based in the industry, because I found such a home in it. It was so easy to get along and to build a career in it. It so long as you have your wits about you, there's no like focus on like, how you doing today? Are you well? In this, especially as female talent 15 years ago, like that was just never even a consideration. So you have to find it within yourself, and it helps. It's really character building.
You mentioned that you consider yourself to be very analytical and not very sensual. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you come across that way in your sexting? I feel like I have a little bit of problem with sexting and dirty talking and sounding sexy, but I don't consider myself very analytical. Do you feel like does that come easy to you?
It doesn't come easy, but I have a little bit of a switch where I can sext in more of a perfunctory way that the person who is sexting me expects. So once you have the right number of nouns, adjectives, verbs in your vocab, in your sensual vocab, you can apply that in a kind of a perfunctory way to just get through it, because I'm not as sexually oriented as the people who are messaging me on a daily basis, but I still want to fulfill their fantasy version that I've created of myself in their minds. So I want to be there for them for the service that they're requesting, which is sexting, or, rates and things like that. So it's, nobody ever walks up to Robert Downey Jr. on the street and asks him what it's like to be Iron Man.
Right.
They ask what it's like to be Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
They don't apply that fantasy that he's created as a role as his actual reality and want to engage with him asking Iron Man questions. So this, for me, has been very much a role that I've agreed to play for the entertainment and fun and lightheartedness for the viewers that have grown to appreciate my role.
I mean, that can be very healthy though. And speaking of that, kind of that entertainment, tell us more about closertonicole.com.
Okay. What inspired it? This was kind of like mid-pandemic. I had this new kind of business partner, and he and I were just at the beginning of our business relationship. And I was, no joke, I was high outside in the yard of my gym that I go to locally.
The weed.
Natasha probably knows where this gym is. Yeah, weed. I was smoking
The
weed.
Okay.
I was smoking weed, and I was out there working out. And these are like my time. Like this is my self-care time. And I'm like pushing heavy weights. I'm stacking plates. I'm having the best workout of my life. And I have this idea. So I called my partner and was like, I have an idea. I don't know a lot about crypto. I don't know a lot about NFTs, but I know that there's room here for adult content creators to help just create something a little bit more sustainable than showing up to a studio, getting a one-time paycheck, and then never seeing another dime. So we talked about it. We liked the idea of putting adult scenes and adult content on the blockchain and allowing us as creators to be able to make money off of it, no matter how many times that scene is resold amongst its purchasers. So when we have an Access Pass member who acquires the scene, if they resell it, I still make money forever. And that to me sounds way more sustainable for adult content creators. We're not producing a necessity, we're producing a luxury product. This is not something like the groceries or water or your electric bill. This is a luxury item that is not an absolute necessity. And I think that if we start creating it more as like, this is a very special thing that we're doing, it's not like groceries where you need 5, 10, 20 a week to sustain the few members that are absolutely intent on over consuming. We're already over consuming. I think that's part of the paradigm. So I think that overconsumption is creating a little bit more of a demand at a lower price. You can eat an apple with so much nutritional value, or you can eat 20 bags of chips to try to get the equivalent amount of nutritional value in the two items. So I think that it's just a new paradigm. It's a new possible option. We've been developing it for a few years. They can go to the side of the Discord. I would recommend the Discord so that our moderators can kind of walk anybody who's like me, very naive in the space, in the crypto and NFT space, to kind of get a little bit of a rundown on how to get involved in a very gentle and easy kind of handheld way. I don't know. I needed my software team to handhold me through this process of development. I had a baseline idea. I was like, God, this would be really beneficial for studios to avoid, certain legislation that are starting to kind of restrict how we spend our loans and currency that we acquire through credit card companies. And, it's like, we'll give you the 10 grand, but we're going to tell you how to spend it.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's very reasonable. So, and there's a lot of people going to non-centralized finance, and I'd like to give them an option to acquire some of the products that I produce. And so it was just really an idea. We wanted to see how far it could go. And I think it would be fun to eventually start converting some of these larger platforms, these larger adult companies, to Web3 and allow them to kind of bypass a lot of the hairballs and these like really tightly knit, all this like legislative fine print that we're going to be going through. And we've already faced so many threats as content creators that even those of us who are doing it the most ethically and legally and consensually and safely as possible, we are still always kind of walking a razor's thin edge. So I think this just gives us one more modality to create with and to continue to earn money off of our products for the rest of our existence, and not just see a one-time paycheck for a studio and then they crank out as many times as they can, share the scene, resell it as an entirely new product, and we don't see any more of that money. It's just our likeness. They're selling our likeness.
So I know a lot of content creators use third-party platforms to achieve that. What's your take on that?
I think that they've got a space.
Skip the 20% fee, or should we? Is that okay?
I think they've got a space. We saw a huge uptick in adult content creators and content creators for those monthly recurring subscription platforms, and they've become a huge baseline for people's wellness, livelihood, to sustain their basic lives and just to get their bills paid. A lot of people are now relying on these sites, so it's hard. Now I'm sure you're aware of the recent, they're kind of making it a little political, and they're starting to cross some boundaries.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of what they're doing.
We kind of are. And we don't necessarily side with the things that these people at the top of these monthly subscription platforms are doing. We don't necessarily agree with their ethical or non-ethical decisions, but we're at the mercy of our earnings. And if our lifestyles are threatened by getting off of that platform, a lot of people have to make very hard decisions right now. So I think that diversifying your income is number one. Don't just rely on one particular source, because if they pull the rug out from underneath you because you're a sex worker, you should not be denied your income or your livelihood, or the fans that want to see your content. They're there for you. Their members are paying to see sex work. That's kind of what the internet, has thrived off of.
Yeah.
Information.
Yeah,
it's been wonderful, but sex work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you talk about diversifying, do you have like a top 5 or a top 3, or do you have a template for how, like, what type of diversification has kind of led to your success?
I think it's really subjective. I think it's too subjective even to offer any kind of suggestions to those who are
based on branding,
who are getting started. I think I've had a lot of people ask me that question, but I also have asked others that question. Those who outperform me and those who are just kind of getting their starting in sex work and promoting their scenes and things like that on different platforms. I've seen a lot of people have great success with sites that I have not had any real, seen any tremendous benefit from, because their members for their specific niche of product are on that site. I don't do that niche. And so that's where their fans are seeking them out. They may have spent a long time on there, but it's so subjective. It's so individual.
Launching your website in 2013, winning awards like Most Outrageous Site and Best Web Director at the Avian Awards is pretty insane. Has the platform allowed you to connect with fans on a more personal level? What role does it play in shaping your public image?
So that's Pooba. That's my friend Ivan.
Oh.
And the Pooba site, my particular Pooba site, we've done some silly stuff on there. So I attribute that
what does
to
that mean?
Ivan.
What is
what's
silly?
Pooba?
Silly, so we Ivan came up with Pooba, and I don't really know. I have never asked him. We've been friends for like a really long freaking time, and I've never asked him where he got that name. But he runs a bunch of different girls, sites that are their name dot, et cetera. So they, we've all, Ivan would text me and say, I got this idea. It's really silly. We're going to do a guy dressed as a Minotaur, and then we're going to have you dressed as a Viking, and it's going to be called Viking Girls Gone Horny. And I'm like,
I'm in.
Okay.
Strap in.
That sounds hilarious. And then he goes, but wait, we got a snake guy, and he's going to bring a snake to set. And I'm like, I'm there. I'm leaving right now. What time? I got to go. So he kind of knows that I'm like that. Like I'll do silly stuff. I don't want to do gaping and gangbangs and double and all these amazing things that other more excitable and exciting performers are to watch. I don't want to do any of those extremes. My body is way too small and way too vanilla for that. I want to do like silly nonsense stuff that makes absolutely no sense and no sexual correlation. Like a Viking and a Minotaur, you wouldn't think right off the bat. That's no one's fantasy, but it did really well because nobody had done it and it was silly.
Yeah. I was like, I think it's my fantasy now.
So the Pooba site's done really well. It's just been fun because Ivan has always been just like such a solid friend. Just really reputable from the get-go. So I was drawn to him because of his he didn't sexualize me. He never came on to me. He never pushed my boundaries. He was always a friend first. And we have very different personal lives, but we come together in the same space and have a lot to agree on. That like, let's just make this fun and see what happens. And the more fun we have, the better the viewers like it.
The people do like it. I mean, obviously they really like what you do, but it's also, you've won many awards for many scenes and many sites. How do those recognitions impact you, maybe personally or even your career?
I actually personally have never won any awards. There have been certain things that I've been involved in that I've either been nominated or I don't.
You don't
I
take that
think-
personal?
I know, and I in fact, I'm very
We want to give Nicole the flowers.
I'm very overt about my non-involvement in any kind of organization or corporation that encourages competition. So that's just
Interesting.
my own personal thing. I like going to, like, this last year, or last month, excuse me, I went to X3, and that was my first public appearance for XBiz in about 6 years. And that was fun. I was invited to go. I understand it's a totally chill vibe. Best of my fans are going to be there. And there's no, like, it's not Nicole versus anybody. I don't want to be involved in any political game where I'm paying for a nomination, or that anybody's going to get pissed at me because an organization that I paid to be nominated with recognized me for my talent. When we're all doing the same shit, we're all having sex for money. The baseline of it is we're in sex work and we're all creating to the best of our ability at the time. That there's no competition and there's no scarcity. It would be like saying, oh, there's only this little slice of the pie and you can only have a little bit. And anybody that takes a bite of that slice of pie is taking off of your plate. I don't follow that capitalistic way of life. And certainly not in sex
the
work,
awards themselves kind of don't vibe with what you put into your work.
Yeah.
I don't think about them. I don't consider them. I don't ask my fans to vote for me. And I'm not going to provide them any kind of links and encouragement to go to the sites that encourage competition. So like when there's these fan voting things, I love that other girls enjoy it. I want everyone to enjoy respectfully and respectively what they want to enjoy and what they want to participate in for their branding. My branding is completely outside of that mentality of like, I'm going to encourage my 3.6 million fans on Instagram to go to this site to vote for me. I'm getting them traffic. I'm not doing that anymore. That
is a huge sticking point in the industry. You're absolutely right. And that does get said quite a bit, that these companies aren't doing anything. It's us.
They're not doing anything for me as an individual. If I win an award or I get nominated, nothing changes to my paychecks. My income does not change. My reputability, my ethics, my morals, my values of myself are not going to be enhanced. My self-awareness is not going to be enhanced by an award. My wellness, my deep sense of self is not going to be enhanced or encouraged to blossom through an award. No one can ever, with my knowing of who I am, whether I get an award or I don't. It's a little piece of metal on a plastic base. That doesn't encourage me to be a better me.
Yeah. I do think with awards that tackles kind of the group in the industry that got in to be famous. Do you think there's other reasons people join?
I think there is. Yeah. I think that, financial reasons, pure and simple, just trying to make sure that we can make our ends meet. Like, it's hard to kind of look at the fame and like the icon monster as its own egregore, so to speak. Like, I'm with me all the time, but I have also had, I don't think very, very much of it's because it's me. I'm with me 100% of the time, and I know myself. So when I see someone shaking and sweating as they approach me for a photo, I have to understand, like, oh, they have a very different perspective of me than I do. And so it helps me kind of check in and understand that they have understood me to be something that I'm not, and that I do need to do my best. And I think it's like my moral and ethic responsibility to make sure that when I do see somebody having that kind of experience, to almost talk them out of it. Like, hey, I'm just another person.
I can only imagine meeting my idol and she's like, no. I'm like,
just calm down. Just calm down. Let's go grab a coffee or something. Let's just relax.
That would make it worse.
She just starts like picking her nose. She's like, I just gotta let this guy know that I'm not,
I'm just a regular person. But it's so hard because I have this view of myself that I want others to understand as well. That's kind of what we're always incessantly doing. We all want to be understood at the level that we understand and love ourselves. But it's not going to happen. Like, there is this weird idolatry that's going on that I just can't get on the same level with. But it does exist. It very much exists. So again, it's a very super subjective, odd experience. But the fame thing, yeah, there's a lot of people that get into the industry and use it for that angle. But it's nothing that a little bit of psychedelics and introspection can't help you out with, that self-awareness, self-worth.
Okay, funny story. I actually got invited to an orgy last week, but before I went, I actually wanted to see the people who were going to be at the orgy. And okay, I just made that up. But that's literally the season of Cam Girlfriend Season 2, which you can watch on the Camming Life YouTube channel.
You are an open user of cannabis. How does that kind of shape your work and how people interact with you, and kind of like, let me see, like influence conversations within the industry and society? Maybe what changes do you hope to see?
For me, the cannabis has definitely been a gateway drug, but to conscious evolution and like decisive, arbitrary, positive choices that I've made because I've been an avid cannabis user, conscious and never in excess, and never in situations that are disrespectful to the plant's wisdom, because I do feel that there's a really deep sacred wisdom there. And now in today's day and age, being very careful to buy from reputable sources in controlled settings. I love that there's so much thorough, quality checking and for the quality assurance of the products here in California. And then, buying a packaged cannabis item, you can see the test results right on there. There's a link right to see if there's heavy metals, mold, contaminants. We don't even have that on a box of cereal. So I think that's really cool. I use it consciously. I usually, quote, microdose with cannabis throughout the day. Sometimes little edibles. I really love edibles because you can, bite off a little 2.5 milligram to 5 milligram. And like, I'll have a little coffee, go to the gym. Mm-hmm. It's really good for me because I'm a little bit on the agro territorial side at the gym. I do have moderately high testosterone levels, and that at the gym.
Wait,
I'm very
just
like who wants it
down.
next? Like, but it's men. Like I'm working through my traumas with cis men. It's a progressive thing. My partner is a cis man and I love him very much. And he has aided tremendously in that. So honestly, cannabis has helped me discover a lot of self-awareness, a ton. I've been able to slow my thoughts down enough to watch my behavior from a third-party perspective, and that's been instrumental in my learning. And it's helped me find great compassion for others who used to piss me off. I used to absolutely be a people hater 101, and now I see through them. I see, like, I can relate to you. That's a trauma response. I see why you're acting like a shithead, and I forgive you. And it's okay. I know you're healing. So cannabis was a gateway drug for me to discover a lot of conscious evolution within myself. Then psilocybin and some psychedelics there on out. But for me, I've used it consciously. I've used it with great intention, respect, and reverence. Never overdoing it, never getting blasted out of my mind unless I'm home and I accidentally I'm high, but I don't have anywhere to go. So I'll just go to bed. Very few instances. So it's been really great. It's helped me. I've made so many great connections. People who also are conscious cannabis users in sacred, settings and things like that, how others have used cannabis to develop their own consciousness and open their themselves to other healing modalities as well. It seems like sometimes you start with cannabis and then you end up getting into energy work or something like that, because you kind of become a little bit more aware of the subtle energies through the cannabis use. So that's been fun. So that it's always been very I really want to respect this because it's done so much for me. I started using it initially for severe trauma, PTSD, and anxiety, and working through the PTSD, not having panic attacks, not having these severe and overt trauma responses to very minute triggers in my immediate environment was wow, this is what it feels to start to relax. So I just continued on with it in a very conscious way. It's been one of the best things I could have ever began for myself.
Yeah. I could listen to you talk about anything. You have one of the sexiest
Especially weed,
voices,
though.
you know?
Thank
I
you.
find myself, and we're talking about weed and whatever. So I found myself wanting to ask you about your sex life with recreational drugs, but I want to respect all this amazing info that you're giving us as well. I really am impressed at this journey that you've gone through. I know some people really have that, but I think
Yeah.
this might inspire others to kind of like, use recreational drugs, cannabis.
I hope it does.
psychedelics in
And
that way.
it's like anything else. You know, you can go out in your backyard and smoke half the stuff growing in your yard, and it's fine because it's just another plant. But this is a plant that grows naturally.
That is not endorsed.
It's
by
not
Sexting.
It's don't do it. No,
Or
don't
like the FDA,
don't do that. But
like also who
Don't
cares?
smoke.
the
shit in
FDA
your
is enough
backyard.
of a liar. Like, we already know not to trust whatever they say anyway. So
Yeah.
but it's a plant. If it wasn't here for us to consume, we wouldn't be very well versed in its psychedelic type of like consciousness expanding effects. We have a cannabinoid system in our body that is designed to process and utilize these terpenes, and there's carbons. Like, there's a carbon myrcene in mango that is extremely beneficial. And where else do you find it but in cannabis? So oftentimes there's like this little thing I read somewhere that was like, you eat a mango and then like an hour later you smoke some weed and just have this incredible, relaxing, euphoric, intense, because of this myrcene, this particular carbon. So I just like making all these like connections and seeing how it helped me through. It's pretty neat. There's a lot of like really fun things to it. My partner and I, we try to use it consciously. Like, if we have a particular intention for the day, or an agenda, like, hey, we're going to be at this hike site. We're going to be hiking for like 6 hours. We're going to have some little edibles with us. They help us stay present. They help with our cardio. Like, we participate at the gym, or I should say I participate at the gym often. It does establish a really strong mind-muscle connection. I've had my best lift days, my most incredibly like reconnective days with my body, incorporating cannabis in my workouts. So it's just been tremendous. I don't think there's been any instance where I've used cannabis in almost 10 years where I've had any kind of paranoia, irrational thoughts, anxiety, anything like that. It's always been the opposite, where I've just been respectful of my dosing as well.
Well, speaking of your body, because you keep talking about the gym, we are going to segue into some sex questions, whether you like it or not.
I love it.
We'll go easy on you.
Okay.
No, but I think, like I said, you have such a beautiful voice. I just can't imagine. Actually, I have done my research. I know what it's like when you dirty talk, and it's really, really hot. So
Thank you.
we wanted to ask you, what kind of dirty talk do you like? What gets you off?
For me, when someone says just like a genuinely deep compliment that doesn't have anything to do with my physical expression is
Why am I not surprised?
I know. But like, when somebody says,
she's a brain girl. You like that,
like when somebody
connection,
says,
that personality.
that was such a considerate thing to say. And I really love the way you worded it. When there's like when somebody's focus is so in on me and something that I do that expresses a part of my personality that I love about my personality, and they notice it and then express it back to me, it's like, why do I want to you right now?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
your
on the
I feel
compassion.
seen.
Yeah.
I feel
Compassion, yes, totally. Compassionate acts, honestly. Anybody who's like charitable in the animal wellness space, in the humanitarian space, extremely, extremely hot for me. I've always kind of been drawn to a bad boy, which is ironic because I've never liked anyone, like really liked anyone that I've dated. And now I'm with somebody who looks the part, like for my frontal cortex. I'm very pleased by the way this man, like generally I'm like 4% of men can actually catch my eye. The rest, I'm very pansexual. So it's people that are sexy. There's no real particular gender to it. But he's like that very rough and tumble, like, esque, but he's exquisite. So, visually, I'm not like a visual person.
Why did I just get jealous? I want to be rough and tumble.
He's such a dreamboat. I don't know. He makes me sick. He's so sexy. But
she's like, ugh.
just
God.
sort of like slap him like a so cute. But I mean, I'm not a very visual person. Gifts are okay. Like, I'm not really like a good receiver of compliments or gifts. When you have self-worth issues and then you kind of start receiving a lot of praise of your physical expression when I love your body. Oh, I love your feet. I love your hair, your eyes, your tits, whatever. If you're already not good at receiving compliments because you have self-worth issues, it's hard to stomach. Like, so I developed a very a genuine internal reaction of my own when someone offers me a compliment that doesn't have to do with my physical expression. So that's a hot for me.
Okay, so we have told Nicole everything she wants to hear to get her in bed. Now what do we do with you?
Right.
Okay.
So,
we have so many men asking us. Yep.
how do you actually get there? What gets you to there? How do you actually? What can guys do?
I have a very authentic sexual, very, very unique, very subjective sexual thing. I got started as an audiophile. I got started, I should say, number one, developing into my sexual preferences as femdom.
Really?
Yes, very.
It's just this all adds
very
up.
young. Oh. Very young. I began in femdom. I started in femdom before I even knew that femdom was a thing. And then when I got into the adult industry, they were like, "Have you ever heard of femdom?" And I'm like, "No." And then they're like, "It's this, this, and this." And I'm like, "I've been doing that for 4 years." Oh my God. So
she's a natural.
It was developmental almost. It was not that I was groomed or anything, but it was a very baseline foundation for me, femdom was. So it kind of helped develop a little bit of a stronger personality in me, I believe. I strongly believe and trust that. And then developing into a very unique, I've never met anyone else with the type of audiophilia that I enjoy. So
Are we talking like the sex ASMR, or you want the whole story with it?
It's no, it's actually my particular ASMR, I guess, preferences aren't anything sexual at all. They're very frequency based. So the solfeggio tones, the solfeggio range of frequencies are very highly arousing to me. Very particular.
She's full of surprises.
Rhythmic drum beats, things like that. So yeah,
that is so hot.
I've never met anyone else that has these kinds of preferences. My partner,
I'm so curious.
He's starting to learn a little bit about what this is like for me, and with a partner. This is the first partnership that I've actually been. We both experimented with these particular frequencies. So he's been blown away because I've introduced him to what I do while I'm working to achieve orgasm with these particular frequencies, and he's like, whoa, like they're out of body DMT level experiences using just breath work and aligning your particular biological rhythmic activity to the frequency. And so it's very, it takes many years of practice. I've been doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I'm smart enough to attempt this.
I think it just came naturally. Yeah.
It's so hot.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's really awesome. So I like to use headphones myself. When I got started, I had never masturbated, never had an orgasm until I got into the adult industry. And when I did, somebody had me on set doing solos, and they had me using a vibrator, and I was like, oh, interesting, vibration. Then I started using the vibrator at home before I would go to the gym. Like I would have my pre-workout, all my stuff ready to go, headphones, and I'd have my frequencies on. And I'd be like, you know what? I got to get out some of this angst because I'm way too territorial right now. So I'm going to get off really quick before I leave, but I'd have my headphones on because I was walking out the door. So I'd do it really quick. And then pretty soon this became a pattern of I need these frequencies, and there's a breath work, and there's you can kind of do these rhythmic breathing practices and exercises where you can push spinal fluid up the back of your spinal cord and push in the pineal gland. And you can actually have these excitatory experiences where the piezoelectric crystals within the pineal gland push against one another, and you do see and experience color, sound, and frequency on an entirely new level. So it's really transcendental. It's very cool. It does take a couple of years, I would say, to get it down to a science within yourself. And everybody's got their preferential frequencies. Now that I've got my partner doing it, he's like, I don't know why you're into that song. And I'm like, try it while you're doing other stuff. And he's like, oh my God, it's so good.
Got it. What sex act are you best at, would you say? What's your specialty?
This sounds crazy. Foot jobs and hand jobs.
You're good at hand jobs?
That's amazing.
I am so good at hand jobs.
Damn.
Like, there's so many things. Like, it's fun because it's like a game for me. Like, I always mess with my partner. I'm like, it's like the game I always win. Like, there's always like tickets that come out and like, yeah, I won again. So it's like, you're playing the game and it's just like, yeah, go, go, go. And then you always win. So I like those. I like foot jobs because I always keep my feet very, I have a thing about my feet being absolutely in pristine condition.
I love it.
I grew up on a ranch and having cracked heels and just raggedy feet all the time because I was barefoot throughout my entire, it's just really nice to live indoors most of the time and be have your feet really in really good shape. So I like to get foot jobs because it's fun. It does help with my focus and dexterity. So in hand jobs too, it helps me kind of be more creative, and I'm practicing to become as ambidextrous as I can possibly be. So it honestly helps me using my non-dominant side to do, sexual things. It honestly, for me, it almost was it's good for my brain. On those days when you write with the wrong hand, you're like, why does this feel good for my brain?
Right. You feel it ticking the other side, the side that never gets used.
You do. You feel it tickling the non-dominant lobes.
Right.
So we talked about hand job, foot job. Let's give some love to the BJ, to the blowjob.
Love them.
Give us some tips here. What are the
blowjob tips?
Yeah.
Gosh, I would say a lot of building anticipation. I think that's kind of a common theme right now. A lot of people people with penises on the internet who are being encouraged to jerk off are being encouraged to edge. And I think that's kind of, it's interesting to observe the desire to wait for gratification and how that kind of bleeds into what we're doing on a collective scale as well. So I like to just go with the flow. Whatever they're focusing on, I want to encourage more of it so long as it's compassionate, not hurting anybody. So when I'm giving a blowjob, I like to build anticipation. I like a lot of teasing, biting, and I like to give one to a guy who likes to be bitten a little bit. It's never with a back molar, but it's kind of.
I was gonna say, are we a back teeth biter?
No, it's not a back teeth. It's a front teeth because there's this
nipper, huh?
Kind of like you're pulling it out, and you run your teeth along the bottom side. So long as they're that bottom little line along the edge of the penis doesn't get hooked. If you have a gapier tooth on the two bottoms, and as it get hooked in there, so just always be careful of that.
Ow.
I know. I've heard horror stories. So I'm always just very, very careful with the sensitivity. If I don't want it on me down there with as sensitive as I am, I know that someone with a wiener is not going to want it like that either. So just being very sensitive, asking them what they like. I like to do that because I like to just flat out know what your preferences are. And so that if you offer me a few preferences of yours, I can kind of know how the rest of the sexual encounter is going to go based on those first few preferences.
What's your biggest turn off?
Turn off narcissism, I suppose. Even sexual narcissism and sexual gaslighting, things like that. Just those are usually precursors to someone who's not going to respect your boundaries or not ask you for consent before they do something that they think is going to be super hot for you because they've done it in the past and every girl they've ever been with likes it. Ugh. I've never experienced sexual narcissism with anyone except for the cis men that I've been with. So, my sexual preferences have changed for those reasons.
Out, you guys.
So confidence is wonderful, but just because you've done it to her before, whoever the last her was, does not mean that my biology is going to enjoy it. I have nerve endings where you wouldn't even imagine there are nerve endings existing.
Right.
So, every person's genitalia is very different, and every person may have some kind of like memory correlation to a certain act or thing that maybe they've experienced in the past that does not cause them pleasure, even though the last 6 people you've been with, you did that thing to, and it was a huge hit. Maybe number 7's not going to agree with that tactic. So just, be mindful, be communicative, just consent, take a shower. That's wonderful. Showers are awesome. I like when people are considerate and respectful of their bodies. I think that when I cleanse and shower my body within reasonable intervals, it shows my body that I respect it and that I want to keep it clean. So I think that would be respectful before any sexual encounter. Just if you can, wipe up a little bit,
I'm just going to steal that quote.
Wipe.
Like, cleanse your body in reasonable intervals.
Just, once in a while. And especially like with, shooting and stuff. If I get off the road, I've been on the road for 2 hours to set, I'm going to go wash up real quick down there.
So we like a clean body. What are your biggest turn-ons?
One of my weirdest experiences when this guy came up to me at the gym. This is one of the most tangible moments because I do energy work and stuff like that. So I can feel when someone is approaching me who's not confident. I can feel you from 50 feet away. I feel you watching, number one. And I know when you're going to come approach, and you have a very surface level question to ask me that's hopefully going to lead into more conversation. But I don't possess any naivete anymore. Every once in a while, I may be ignorant to something. Once I learn it, I correct my behavior. But there's nothing naive within me. And nothing is going to coerce me to, I have my male partner. I've got my one man, and he's a delight. So the only people that approach me are never women and never any other queer non-binary folks that I'm actually attracted to. So when a straight man feels confident enough to approach me, it's usually, are you here by yourself? And I immediately am like, oh, you're a rapist.
Oh.
Don't
say that.
Why would you do not? There's so many other wonderful things you can lead in with. Like, what are you doing after this? Like anything, if you don't have like
Great
the things, and, all of my practice and stuff in my own internal world is my thoughts, my considerations, my beliefs about myself are very esoteric. Not everybody is going to be able to approach me with something that I'm going to be enticed by. Unless it's like, here's a vegan quesadilla. Immediately, I'm going to probably do whatever you suggest that I do. If you hand me like a treat, a snack, I'm going to be immediately encouraged to talk to you more. The best conversations I've had have been authentic, and where someone has a genuine question. Where are your who did your tattoos? Those are so interesting. Can I look at that? Who do you go see? Immediately, there's an authentic, genuine conversation. But don't ever try to think of something that you could say that would be interesting to me, because it's not going to work. I'm not going to be interested in what you find interesting. That's just that's how my brain works. So, just come at me with something authentic. Hey, Nicole, I recognize you from Instagram or whatever.
Just say it.
I love a confident, don't say you look familiar. Because I'm going to say out loud, it's from a porno. You sick sicko. We all know where you know me from. So let's not beat around the bush. If you want to come up and spark conversation, like I find a lot of people very attractive, not by their physical expression, but by whatever they are most interested in. So even if I don't like pottery, but you like pottery, come up and tell me about what you like most about pottery. Yeah. I want to hear you happy. I want to hear you excited and enthralled with whatever you're talking about. So I like confident people. I like people who like themselves. You don't have to love yourself. You don't have to be, self-worshiping or anything, but just like yourself and have something interesting to talk about. I'm not looking for anything romantic ever. Not ever, because that's just not where my mindset or my interests lie. Right. But I'm looking for deep, wonderful, loving connections and conversations with people, anybody. So just, that's turn-ons for me are people who like their life, they like themselves, and they have something interesting that they want to share with others.
Oh, that's beautiful. My God, that is so beautiful.
It is, yeah. So we want to thank you for having a very deep, loving, incredibly interesting conversation with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
I definitely want to say thank
beautiful.
you for bringing this incredible energy. You are an incredible presence. You are very needed in this space. And we want to say thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so
on
much.
here with
Absolutely.
us.
Thank you so much for coming, Nicole.
Thank you both for
and
having
Sex
me.
Tales.
No.
Yeah. All right, Sex Tales. We'll see you again next time.
Next week, bros.
Hey, Sex Squad. Remember to spank that like button and subscribe on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/camming_life.
And make sure to subscribe to Sex Tales wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Yes.